Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Realize Today podcast. I'm stoked to be recording my first episode today. It's something I've really been wanting to do for years. It means the world to me that you've decided to tune in to listen to this. And so today I really just want to talk about what is Realize Today. There are 5 pillars that have come to mind of what this is that I've created. And essentially, Realize Today is an extension of me. I had this desire to put my work into the world in a way that was most authentic to me. And I knew that working under someone else in whatever capacity was not going to be that. So I've experimented with different ideas about how I can bring my most authentic gift to the world. And so the idea for Realize Today came to me, and it's already in less than a year taken multiple different forms, from selling merchandise to creating content, writing to hosting men's groups to one-on-one coaching and multiple other avenues, but stuff that was just really, really me and coming from my heart and from that place of truth. And so now we're creating a podcast, and it's really something that I've wanted to do for a long, long time. I remember about 4 or 5 years ago, once podcasting started to getting really big, I had a dream of having my own podcast and being able to support myself in that way. And there's been a few bumps along the way where I thought about creating one and I got in my own way. It takes courage. I applaud anyone who gets out there and puts their own work in the world in any way, whether that be in podcasting, whether that be in writing, whether that be in content creation, creating their own art, public speaking, anything of that nature. When you're creating and you are putting your work out there for the world to see, it's a vulnerable thing, and it takes courage. It takes immense courage to do that. And I'm going to talk a lot about courage today and throughout the length of all of these podcasts for the rest of my life. Courage is something that is incredibly important to me. So we'll dive into the 5 pillars of Realize Today. And what that essentially means is the 5 pillars of my life, my mission, my soul, my learnings, and what I feel is important to me. And so it starts with pain. Intention is magic. Fear is the compass. Be here now. And gratitude. It started with a lot of pain, probably about 8 years ago, and I numbed myself for a while. And it did not start to get better at all until I started to face it. It's essential to have a level of self-honesty with ourselves when it comes to pain. It's there. We're all hurting. It's something that's guaranteed in this lifetime, is pain. We're never going to avoid it. We can try to cover it up, but it will come back and haunt us in some way. Whether that be later in life, whether that be once you pass. At some point, it will come back. We can't really get away with anything. And I've heard Jordan Peterson say that, who has said, I've never seen anybody get away with anything ever. And I think that there's truth to that. And potentially within that statement, there is the feeling of, okay, someone tries to get away with something, and maybe they've gotten away with it up to this point, but you never know when you're fully beyond that thing. And it always seems to come back to you at some point when you least expect it. And so to free ourselves from that, we must walk through our pain. I know when I'm avoiding my pain because I can feel like there's a little something on my shoulder. I don't feel fully free in my heart. And I have that little paranoia that, oh, when is this thing going to come back to me? And it always does. And so we must have the courage to face our pain, to be honest with ourselves. And my journey started with a lot of pain, and I decided to not face it for about 2 years, and it grew and it grew and it grew until I had no choice but to face it. And I decided to wander off, I was lost, and I decided to quit my job and move from New Jersey to San Diego, California without a job. And I drove across the country, and I was pretty terrified to do so, but it was exactly what I needed. I needed to dive into the calling. A lot of my pain was from feeling a calling about how I wanted to live my life, but I wasn't saying yes to it. That's pain. And I think that's a lot of humans' pain, is a lack of courage to do what they feel called to do. And that pain haunts them. A lot of the time it leads to addiction. It did for me. So my story begins with where I got lost. And one of my favorite songs at the time and years later was Can't Go Wrong by Gone Gone Beyond. One of my favorite lyrics is, let's quit our jobs and wander off. You can't be found if you don't get lost. And excuse my poor singing, but I find so much truth to this. As I decided to say yes in my journey to wandering off and getting lost, I was able to find myself. I was never going to be able to find myself in my small town, in the same familiar environment, with the same voices in my echo chamber. I needed to wander off and completely let go in order to find myself. And it was really beautiful, but it took a lot of courage. It's scary to dive into the unknown. But the unknown is where the magic is. How much trust can you have in that inclination in your heart? There's something that's guiding us. Desire is coming from somewhere. Sometimes it's ego. If you can decipher between ego and that other force that is guiding us, you can learn to trust those impulses. And when you dive in, you realize that you have nothing to be afraid of because you're protected. You're being guided. To have that faith in something greater than ourselves that is guiding this beautiful experience is protection. Protection against living a life without taking risk. The next pillar of Realize Today and of what I believe to be essential in life, an essential part of how I live, is intention is magic. At one of the points of my life when I had no idea where I was going, I decided to walk on the treadmill every morning for 30 minutes, and during that 30-minute period, I would just visualize my future. I would visualize what I was calling in. And this was inspired by a book that I read at the time, Think and Grow Rich. And I'm so grateful for this book. It showed me at that period of life what the mind and desire are capable of when you can align them, and really you can think your way into success. I don't think anyone's ever succeeded without thinking themselves into that place. And I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite books anymore, but for what that book did for me, that young kid at that time, was mind-blowing. And the reason that it had so much impact on me was because I fully bought into it. I fully bought into everything that was on those pages because I was so lost that I was like, I've heard other successful people praise this book, so I'm like, there must be something here. And I was so desperate. And I bought into everything in that book, and I decided to live it. And I decided to visualize. I decided to believe. I decided to do the things that that book told me to do. And my life started changing pretty rapidly. And that's when I realized, wow, I can do anything. And maybe I won't accomplish anything and everything, but that belief of chasing the things that I am desiring is going to lead me to exactly where I need to be. I might have foolishly wanted to be a professional athlete when I was at a certain age. And then I realized at a certain point, I am not anymore capable of having this dream. This dream must die, and I must create a new dream. But I need to create a new dream. It takes courage to create a new dream. It takes courage to hope. And so a new dream was created. I, at a certain point then, wanted to become a Navy SEAL. And at a certain point, I got injured, and this dream had to die. And then new dreams just continued to be created. And that's been the greatest gift of my life, is working towards something meaningful. And it's led me to so many incredible experiences. I believe desire is guiding us in some way. And maybe my dreams, to a certain point, aren't meant to all come true. But they're going to come true to some extent. Because what I'm chasing is not really the attainment of that goal, but what I'm chasing is the feeling that that goal will bring. And the feeling of what believing in myself brings. And the feeling of what going for something brings. Of what just being an active participant on the journey and living fully. Back when I decided to start Realize Today, I was selling t-shirts, and one of my favorite and most loved t-shirts was Live Life Fully Today. And I think this is what I mean when I talk about this, is going for it. And to tie that back to intention, every moment counts. If we're not using intention to call in and bring in what we want in our days, what we want in our lives, what we want in each moment, we're just being carried along. And we give up one of our powers in this life, the powers of our mind, to be the creator of our life. We can transform our lives. We can transform our emotions. We can transform our bodies. We can transform our feelings about ourselves. We can transform our external environment. And it starts with intention. And what do you want to create? The third pillar I'd like to talk about is fear is the compass. I see fear as the major force that is holding us back in life from doing whatever we want to do that fulfills us, from living completely full, from living an expansive life full of love and joy and so much freedom. Fear is always going to be there. It's not going anywhere. But we must have courage. I see our level of courage to be the gas pedal on our experience on this earth as it pertains to spiritual growth. The more courage you have, it might make things harder because you're diving in to really difficult things all the time. But that has been my motto in life, and I've seen growth happen very quickly because of it. I see massive courage is very scary, but it leads to very quick learning and expansion. Less courage will give you a smoother ride, but there will be slower learning and expansion. And I'm not saying one is better than the other. After multiple years of just trying to live with massive courage, very often I've bit off more than I can chew. And I'm actually moving into a season in my life of slowing down a little bit. With that said, anytime anyone asks me about my journey and what I did to change my life so much, my answer almost always involves courage. It's so important to me, and I put courage on a pedestal. I don't know if there's anyone who loves and admires and values courage as much as I do, because I've seen what it has done for me. And the way that I've lived my life is I see what I'm scared of, and because I'm scared of it, it has some sort of meaning to me. And it has some sort of meaning to me, and I'm avoiding that thing. And so, in order to get around it, I must run right through it. And it leads to rapid expansion. Now, you might think, well, I'm scared of this, that, the other thing. I'm scared of clowns. I'm scared of spiders. And yeah, there could be value in going into those things. But what I'm talking about is the things that are really, really meaningful to us. I'm scared to be seen. I'm scared to be rejected. I'm scared of receiving love. I'm scared of giving love. I'm scared of having my heart broken. I'm scared of being embarrassed. These are the things to throw yourself into, because these are the things that are impacting how you live your day-to-day life. These are the things that are going to inspire you to shy away from being your full self in the world. Learn about yourself. Learn what these things are that are holding you back. And this is where self-honesty comes in too. There's a long time when I wouldn't even admit that I was scared. I was a 17-year-old kid. Oh, I'm scared of nothing. Nothing scares me. I was fucking terrified. I was scared of being embarrassed. I was scared of being seen. I was scared of being rejected. I was scared of being my full self. I was scared of loving, because it wasn't cool to open my heart and be a light in the world. And so I shut that part of me off. But I was a terrified kid who was pretending he wasn't terrified. And I didn't even know that I was pretending, because I wasn't being honest with myself. There was no level of self-honesty there. And so I had to go through the pain. And since then, I've been using fear as my compass, because as I began to face my fear, everything got easier. And once you conquer a little piece of that very first fear, and continue moving through that, there's an ecstatic feeling of freedom, of expansion. You can feel the world around you expand, and you feel your fear shrink. It's a beautiful, beautiful feeling, and it's really good for the soul. And yeah, it's hard, but it's not nearly as hard as you think it'll be, and it's not nearly as hard as it will be avoiding fear and pain in your life. Choose your hard. It's hard to run away from your pain for the rest of your life. It's hard to continue numbing yourself. It's hard to live that life. It's also hard to go in your fear. One has lingering pain on the other side of it. The other one has immense freedom and joy on the other side of it. Do you have the courage to delay gratification? This path is so worth it. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons I've started this podcast, is because I've dove down this path so deeply, and I feel so passionate about it, because I've went from a scared child to a free man that is incredibly proud of myself and how I've lived in this life. The next pillar I'd like to talk about is be here now. Presence. That is initially where the name of Realize Today came from. I was in a little ceremony, and the words today just came into me. And it so highlighted who I am, what is my mission, what I believe, what I like to preach, what I like to talk about, how I like to invite other people into conversation, how I like to motivate, how I like to inspire. All of it comes down to presence. Are you doing what you need to do today? Are you being here now today? Are you being present with yourself? Are you acting with courage today? Which was another one of the t-shirts I used to sell. All of the merch I used to sell had today at the bottom. It was 3 words in today. Lead with courage today. Live life fully today. And that was my motto. And that is where Realize Today came from. Realize the power of today. Realize the power of what it means to live for today, every day, to do what's good for you today, to do what's hard today, to make the most of today. And it can be used in a variety of different ways. Maybe today is a day to play and enjoy. Maybe today is a day to self-sacrifice in order to build for the future. But you're being present with yourself and what you're feeling called to do in the world. And I find this to be essential to living a good life. And for years, I wasn't living for today. And that's a great part of my inspiration into Realize Today and creating this brand and the dreams that I have for it. And a big part of Be Here Now and Presence is the daily practice and the daily training. I've meditated for an hour a day for a month straight, and my mind was focused. I could bring it wherever I want. I had autonomy over my thoughts. And then I stopped meditating as much, and my ability went down. And there's a constant ebb and flow, and that's why it's a constant practice. It's not something where you get to a certain point and then you're automatically never going to fall below that. It's not a linear motion. It's an ebb and flow and a constant practice of being as present as you can be. And I hear a lot of people talk about being present, controlling your thoughts, staying in the present moment constantly. And something that isn't talked about enough is that can bring about shame for people who are feeling like they were having trouble being present. And one of the things I want to invite into anyone listening in this space is the role that healing has to play in our thoughts, in gaining autonomy over our thoughts. Our unhealed wounds have an impact on our physiology and where our mind is going. And so as we heal more and more, we gain more and more autonomy over our minds and our thoughts. And I think that part is forgotten in a lot of people and books who speak about it, is that there's a role that healing plays in that. And, you know, if you were abused by your parents when you were younger and you have these wounds that make you afraid and untrusting of people, until you do that inner work of moving through that and healing that pattern, you're going to have less autonomy over your thoughts and your emotions, because those triggers are going to be coming up for you in conversation. So I think it is essential for us to not just bypass our experience and meditate all the time, but to go into these emotions, feel them, heal them. And as we do that, we create space for us to have greater control over our thoughts and our reality. It is like we create this space, and then we're able to become and take up a larger role in creating our reality. The way that I see it is wounds may or may not be there. And if they are there, then we must acknowledge that they're there. And we must make the active decision to heal. We must heal them. And as we heal them, we gain greater and greater autonomy over our thoughts. And we are more easily able to manifest and create our dreams and work for our dreams. But as long as we have an abundance of unhealed wounds, we're acting out the patterns of our wounds, and they have a large autonomy over our lives. The fifth pillar I'd like to talk about is gratitude. How simple, how basic. Everyone knows gratitude, but there are levels to gratitude. You know, I thought I knew gratitude 5 years ago. Then some things happened, and then I really thought I knew gratitude 3 years ago. And then about a year ago, as I was going through some deep processing, I really, really thought I knew gratitude. And then in this last year, I'm like, okay, now I really know gratitude. And I think it's important to know that there are levels to this. There is always more gratitude to be had. And it's a beautiful part of life. We are blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be here speaking these words into this microphone. And anyone who's listening, you're blessed to be breathing right now and deciding that you want to listen to this. And to have the sun, the moon, your freedom to decide to heal, your freedom to choose your reality, your freedom to love, your freedom to create the relationships you want, your freedom to play music, your freedom to create anything. This world is a playground. And you've been placed here for whatever reason. And we have full autonomy over what we want to create in this life. And it is beautiful. It is joyful. It is hard. It is painful. But it is beautiful because we get to feel a wide range of emotions. And yeah, maybe sometimes we don't want to feel the pain and feel the fear, but as we dive deeper into those depths, the other side will expand as well. We increase our capacity to feel joy, to feel love, to feel light as we feel deeper into our pain, our sadness, and our anger. And that is the beauty here on life. The light and the dark, our freedom. We get to just experience it and choose how we want to live in our limited time here on this planet that has sustained us with the most beautiful mountains that we can go visit and just admire God's creation. The sun, which provides us with all these nutrients and sustenance and joy, and the water, which we get to go play in and absorb into our body and cleanse ourselves with and drink to nourish ourselves, and incredible food that we get to grow and buy and cook up and really enjoy that mouth pleasure. We get to do so many beautiful things here, and I am incredibly grateful to be here, and it is my deepest intention to live with deep gratitude for the rest of my life and continue my capacity to expand gratitude. All right, y'all, that is my 5 pillars. This episode was a lot about me and my journey. I'm excited to get into more topics and eventually have more guests on at a certain point in the journey. But thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for learning a little bit more about me. And I appreciate you. And if you like this podcast, feel free to shoot me an email. Go to my Instagram, shoot me a DM. If you go to my website, realizetoday.co, you can see some of my offerings. You can subscribe to my newsletter. I'd love to see you guys subscribe to my newsletter. It is a weekly newsletter sent out every Tuesday morning. And it is just me providing some sort of thought-provoking value, of inspiration. And feel free to respond to those newsletters. I receive all the emails, and I love to hear from you guys. Wishing you all a day full of freedom, love, joy, gratitude, and a beautiful rest of the week. Peace.